From the LP Perfect Strangers, released worldwide today, that was A Gypsy's Kiss. In Deep Purple, the bass is played by Roger Glover.
The first song I ever performed live was the Rock Island line, which I learned from Lonnie Donegan. So it was like kind of gentle strumming. But when we decided to form a band, the guys in my class, there were two other guys. One was better at playing tunes and the other knew more chords. So they said, well, you can be the bass player. And I kind of resented it at first. But very quickly, kind of slotted in. It became a natural instrument for me. So yes, it's always been the bass. I've dabbled around in other things since. But bass guitar has always been what I've played.
What is the attraction of the bass guitar for a man such as yourself, because you're also a writer? Now, you don't normally write on the bass guitar.
I don't write on the bass guitar, actually. Funny enough, bass guitar is something I've never taken seriously. I never actually think of myself as a bass player. And I know that's what I kind of got lucky with. But I've never worked at it. I've never practiced much to Ritchie's disgust, because he's a practicer. And he always used to say to me, so if you worked at it, you'd be much better. And my attitude to that is that I'm as good as I can be, because it's what I do naturally. And I've got no pretensions to be the greatest bass player in the world. In fact, I get very embarrassed when people come up to me and say, oh, you're a great bass player. I go, I'm sorry, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Because I don't try it. What's more important to me is to write and to have an input on other levels other than just being a musician.
Because it was always said of you that during the Deep Purple years that you were the man that would be at the back of the control room watching the engineer, watching the producer all the time.
I think the production side of it is more to do with personality. It's strange. There's more bass players that make producers than any other instrumentalist.
But of everybody in Deep Purple, you are the one with the most production experience. You are the guy who's produced this album. For a while, it was lots of names were bandied around, lots of them, which I could never quite understand, because I always thought, hang about in the lineup, there's a producer there already with incredible and enormous experience.
In that very first meeting that we had, we covered a lot of points. We kind of had an agenda, and we said, right, are we going to do it? That was the first thing. Yes, we're going to do it. If we're going to do it, how we're going to do it, where we're going to record, who's going to be the manager, and all this kind of stuff. And somewhere down on the agenda was producer. And at this point, I said, well, I'd like to make a statement at this point. I'd like to say that, we all know that I've been the producer of all of us. I've had a lot of experience. But I don't want to do this album. This is a reunion of what we were. And I think for me to suddenly stand up and start giving orders around, or at least giving my advice or helping or whatever, I feel a little uncomfortable about that. And it was also, I felt, a hell of a responsibility on my shoulders. And if it turned out really badly, it would give everyone a kind of scapegoat. And I was a bit worried about that, because I wasn't 100% sure that it was going to work when we first started. And so I said, well, I think we should get either an independent producer or we should all do it. And as it turned out, we decided all to do it. And the first couple of sessions we did, Ritchie was doing his first overdub, and he said, well, do you want to come in and help? So, sure. And then Jon Lord said the same thing. Of course, he and Gillan and I write the lyrics together. So consequently, I became involved in the performing of those lyrics. And it was after about a week, Ritchie said to me, he said, it's going to be difficult for you not to produce, isn't it? And already I'd fallen into the role. I mean, completely unconsciously. I could not stay out of the control room. And so by kind of unspoken consent, I became the producer, against my wishes. But having done it, I felt really good about it.
But also you were the person that would have understood all the modern technology that has evolved since Deep Purple broke up. Because you've constantly been in the control room. So you would know how to use that. But to me, the nice thing about the album is that you don't hear the modern technology.
I think with a band like Deep Purple, it's very important to be natural. And what's natural for us is like, it's a bit, the parallel, I suppose, would be the stand-up comedian. who kind of lives by his wits, and he works on the feel of the crowd. Deep Purple was that kind of band. We're really at our best when we're live. But in the studio, if we start getting a bit too pretentious in terms of sound and technology, it wouldn't really be us. It wouldn't be natural. So the sound has got to be very natural, very live sounding, very live feeling.
But I think it would be fair to say that when you listen to the album, that you can hear all the bands, or elements of all the bands that every member's been in over the years, but still encapsulated in a Deep Purple sound, which must have meant that you had to, as the producer somewhere down the line, indicated that it was worthwhile sifting various things out to make them a good ingredient of the whole.
It would have been nice if I'd done that. Thanks a lot, but I didn't. I think I went into the first meeting of a reunion with a kind of 50-50 attitude, because the last 6 years I've been totally against it. And I'm only human, I can change my mind. And as 50-50 at the meeting, we decided to jam together. And then it became 75-25, and when we first wrote our first song, I went, great, 100%. Only because I felt we had something to offer as a band. And I didn't actually do anything as a producer to change that. I mean, I might have done as a writer. But as a producer, I didn't sit down and say, look, this is what we've got to do. We've got to take the best of the technology we've got available, but still retain the spirit and all that. The spirit was there, despite anything I would have thought. When we came back from our first rehearsals in Vermont, I got a little wasted one night, and I played all the old bootlegs and all the old live recordings of Deep Purple. And I played the new tapes that we just recorded in this basement. And the thing that struck me was that the same spirit was there. So it didn't come from me, that came from the band. And I think whatever influences we've garnered in the last 11 years would become apparent anyway. Wouldn't need anyone to point it out.
Of the tracks that are available on the album, which one would you like me to play, Roger?
My favourite track on the album is Perfect Strangers. I don't know whether anyone else has mentioned that in the band, but that's, to me, is one of the greatest tracks I've been involved in, either writing or producing or playing. It does something to me. It's quite magic. And in fact, Nick, our engineer, because being the producer, Nick and I we've got a pretty good relationship. Late one night, we've been working really hard. We were both very tired. We were just about to pack up and go home, and he turned to me and he said, Perfect Strangers. He said, I've never been so proud of anything in my life as that. And that meant a lot to me coming from him. He's been around for years and years and years and done millions of things. And I know what he's trying to say. I don't know what it is. There's something about that song that means a lot to me. And I don't really know what it's about. It's just there's a feeling I get when it starts. It just kicks in. I love it.